So, what was the creature at the end of Alien Romulus? Man, that thing was creepy. So, let's begin at the start of the movie. Weyland-Yutani is aware of the alien that Ripley encountered. The year is now February 9th of 2142, which is around 20 years after the events of the first film. A Weyland-Yutani ship is seen floating through space, and we see pieces of the Nostromo. The ship would focus on retrieving this hardened piece that we saw in the trailer. The science team would then cut this object open, and it's revealed that what's inside is the body of the alien from the first movie, the one that Ripley shot into space. So yeah, it survived. This space station is called Romulus, and it's owned by Weyland-Yutani. What happens here is not explained until later in the movie. Navarro would track a beacon from the space station, and the crew plans to board it so they can take the cryopods and the fuel it uses. They need these cryopods to go into cryosleep for the long journey home. The mining colony they worked for had denied them travel permits to Uvaga, so their plan is to travel there. But they need the help of Andy the synthetic. Since he's a Weyland-Yutani synthetic, he can possibly talk to Mother, which is the system or software that helps run the ship. The Romulus station was thought to be decommissioned, but when the crew enters, they find out it was abandoned. The ship still has power, so they turn it on and find the cryopods, but search for more fuel, so the pods can last longer. When Tyler, Bjorn, and Andy explore other areas, there's a scene that shows a severed facehugger limb and a melted portion of the floor. They find more cryofuel, but the ship's systems locks the door as they entered. Rain and Navarro would go in to help the others, but find the body of a synthetic in the same room. The temperature in this area starts to get hot, which then thaws the frozen facehuggers, and that's the start of all the chaos. This is the part when Navarro gets facehugged. Eventually, they freeze the tail and get it off her, but by then, it's too late. The alien egg is already inside her. That synthetic body they found earlier is either another copy, a replica, or maybe a different model of Ash from the first movie. It even has the same voice. So he is now the science officer named Rook on the space station Romulus. He explains what happened. When they recovered the alien body, it was still alive. It then wreaked havoc on the crew aboard the station until it was finally destroyed and left hanging. Rook would then reveal they have compound Z01 somewhere within the station. Rook would then override Andy's original prime directive. He's now helping the company to retrieve compound Z01 and bring it back to Weyland-Yutani. So a bit later on, we get the scene where Navarro eventually expires, because the chestburster comes out of her chest and then it runs away. So the chestburster goes through a phase of going into a cocoon where it starts morphing into a larger adult alien. Bjorn would then use some type of electrical prod on it, which is the burn mark we see on the alien's head later on. Bjorn then gets taken out by the alien's tail and then acid blood. The film reveals that facehuggers track their prey by seeing their body heat. The crew member named Kay reveals to her brother Tyler that she's pregnant, and then gets taken by the alien. Rook discovered a microorganism within the alien DNA. It's an accelerant that was tested on animals. It works to repair injuries, but later enters another phase. It changes the host DNA and mutates. Andy's prime directive is to bring the compound back to the colony for further development. The remaining crew of Rain, Tyler, and Andy would find Kay, but she's been badly hurt. Tyler gets taken out and Kay goes to the escape shuttle. There's also a scene when Kay would inject herself with compound Z01 to heal her injuries, but it ends up doing something else to her body. Rain goes back to rescue Andy, who was left on the floor after the aliens showed up. They end up being trapped in a corridor with aliens, but Rain changes the gravity and shoots down many aliens. And after this is the scene in the trailer where they're affected by the gravity changes and they're trying to dodge those giant splatters of acid blood in the air. And this part here is the scene within the elevator shaft. It's when Andy saves Rain. It's also the last time the two of them encounter Xenomorph aliens, because later on they encounter something else. And this is the part in the movie where something really weird happens, and you either like it or you don't like it. So here's what happens. Kay is put to cryosleep, but then moments later, her pod triggers an alarm. She's pulled out by Rain, and Kay gives birth to a baby human that's been affected or mutated by compound Z01 that she injected into her body herself. The credits call this creature the Offspring, who is played by Robert Bobrovsky, who is 7 feet 7 inches tall. Now, the Offspring is more human in appearance. It's very tall, with thin limbs and a face that resembles the engineers in Prometheus, but I swear the body reminds me of the Neomorphs. If you took the head of the engineer and put it on the body of a Neomorph alien, that's pretty much what you're looking at. The Offspring alien went from a newborn alien into a larger alien phase very fast. Like, it grew rapidly. Now, in the start, it had a short stubby tail with pale colored skin, so it did not have the hard exterior like xenomorphs. And on the elbow, it's got these bones sticking out. And since the face was covered in flesh, the Offspring was able to display more facial expressions. Andy did encounter the Offspring, but of course, the Offspring took him down in one single swipe, and that was it. Andy was done. So the way Rain defeats this creature is by first suiting up, then attaching her suit to this cable line, and then the small organic pouch where the creature was born in still has acid in there. So she kicks it over. The acid burns a hole in the ground, creating this vacuum effect into space. They both get pulled out, but she manages to pull herself back into the ship, and then the Offspring gets thrown into space. As soon as I saw the face of the Offspring, I was like, no, why would you do that to the engineers? Why? That is so sick and twisted, but also scary and creepy. It also shows during the ending that the science officer Rook did send a signal to Weyland-Yutani about what happened. So most likely, they know that Rain already has compound Z01 in her possession and might come after her to claim it. And welcome back. So let's talk about the scenes of Rook within Alien Romulus, because it's when some very important details of the story are explained. They use the image of Ian Holm, who played the character Ash in the first movie, and placed it on the body of the synthetic they found in the station. It also has the same voice, or at least very close to being the same. The body was already damaged, but they hook it up to a computer system and manage to talk to Science Officer Rook. But once he's activated, the first thing he talks about is the need to secure Z01 compound, must complete the mission. They were hoping to get some information from Rook about the facehugger that's attached to Navarro's face, but he doesn't help them in a way they need. He just tells them, run and get out, or they should just finish her off before it's too late. Rook would tell them the facehugger has planted a seed that will amalgamate with her DNA and grow out of her. The creature he's talking about is XX121 Xenomorph. He talks about the crew aboard the Nostromo that made contact with this specimen about 2 decades ago. Out of the 7 crew members, only 1 survived. She blew the creature out of the airlock, and the company was searching for it ever since. About 170 days ago, the company found the body. They thought it expired, but even with lack of oxygen or food, it had no effect on it. The body of the alien was preserved inside this hard material. They cut it open, and that's when everything got worse. The creature was still alive. It wreaked havoc on the station until the security forces shot it down. Rain comes up with an idea to cryo-freeze the facehugger's tail in hopes of removing the parasite off Navarro's face, and it works. Rook would also try to influence Andy's decisions in the matter, as far as not allowing Navarro back on the ship, because she is now a danger to everyone. Bjorn and Navarro would try to escape, but their ship crashes back inside the space station. Andy would have a personal conversation with Rook. His primary directive then gets overwritten by Rook. His goal now is to complete the mission Rook had before: retrieve compound Z01, return to Jackson Colony, and await for Weyland-Yutani. Andy's personality also changes. He becomes more confident and controlling over situations. When Andy, Tyler, and Rain reach the Romulus lab, this scene gives us more information about what experiments were being done here. Rook told Andy about the colonies that are failing. Unbearable temperatures, new diseases every cycle, toxic mine fumes. It's all one unforeseen tragedy after the other. Mankind was never truly suited for space colonization. They are simply too fragile, too weak. The work of this station interchanged that. The perfect organism, that's how we should refer to human beings. So, he set this wrong right. He took its gift for humanity. Inside the parasite's own bioengineered DNA, he discovered a unique, non-Newtonian fluid, life, in its most primal, unadulterated form. This microorganism might be the most destructive pathogen ever observed, but it was synthesized in the lab. It was the miracle that Mr. Wayland tried to search for. Prometheus Fire, the divine gift to humanity. Z01 contains the genome responsible for the Xeno's ability to accelerate and slow down metabolism at will. It can rewrite the host's DNA through its blood. This is a much needed and well overdue upgrade for humanity. He simply cannot wait for evolution anymore. But Rook does not tell them everything. Compound Z01 has a major side effect. Exposure to it will lead to mutation within the body, as it was shown on screen when a rat goes through this process, and the end result is shown beside the monitor. And of course, at the end of the movie, we see what happens when a newborn human baby is exposed to compound Z01. As I said before, it looks like a deformed body of a human with features of the Xenomorph from Alien Covenant, a tail, some holes in its back, and the head or face of an engineer. It seems like the main purpose of compound Z01 was to make humans into the perfect organism, but the benefits still come with major side effects, so that's why they still need further development on it. There's also some information from the book Alien Out of the Shadows. They were able to extend the story of Ash after the first movie. Before the Nostromo was destroyed, he was able to upload his consciousness to the shuttle systems. It was the one Ripley was in at the end of the movie. A mini vessel called the Marion would send out a local distress signal because their antenna for long-range signals was damaged. They also had an encounter with aliens. Their signal gets picked up by the Narcissus, which is secretly controlled by Ash. Ash would find out there are aliens aboard the Marion mining vessel. He is still trying to fulfill Special Order 937, which is to recover one of the creatures, so he changes the shuttle's course and brings Ripley there, which leads to another story. But in the end, Ash's AI gets wiped from the system with a computer virus. There was another story where the company knew about the alien but lied to Ripley. In the comic book story, Aliens Earth War, Ripley is awakened from her sleep aboard the Sulaco. She meets Captain Hankerson, and he's aware of what Ripley has encountered on LV-426. Even though the corporation says they had no tapes of the events on LV-426, they lied to Ripley. She learns that when Kane did a recon of the derelict ship, his camera recorded everything. Earth knew about the creatures from the very beginning. They just kept it a secret. The inboard suit recorders logged everything. The Nostromo's android dumped the data into the escape pod's computer long before she destroyed his body and blew up the Nostromo. They assumed this creature was incubating the alien spore when it died. Command believes it was some sort of navigator or pilot. But the company has a different interest this time. The monsters, they're just animals. But this creature represents sentient life, capable of navigation, construction, and maybe more. Ripley then warns him the distress signal was actually a warning. Captain Hankerson says this is a scientific expedition. All he needs is a guide. But Ripley refuses. If Ripley does not help him on the mission, Captain Hankerson said he might wake up Corporal Hicks and Newt. So Ripley has no choice. She spends one last moment with Newt, and then she leaves her. She joins another crew aboard another ship and watches as the Sulaco drifts further and further away, and this branches into another story. So there's been some discussion about Ian Holmes' face appearing in Alien Romulus. His character Ash from the first Alien movie was mentioned in various sources, like novels, video games, and comic books, but has never really returned to the movies, unlike the synthetic Bishop or David, which appeared in more than one movie. Over on the website Entertainment Weekly, they have an article about this topic. When Alien Romulus was being produced, Fede Alvarez and Ridley Scott were trying to figure out what synthetic they should bring back. Since there are only a few synthetics in the Alien movies, that limited their options. But Fede Alvarez did have an idea. Here's what he said. So we were talking, and Ridley and I felt like the one that has never been back was the best one of them all. The original model, played by Ian Holm, which led to a big reveal during the movie when Tyler, Andy, Rain, Bjorn, and Navarro meet Science Officer Rook. Even though the body of the synthetic was ripped in half, it was still operational. The face and voice was almost identical to Ian Holm, who played the android Ash in the first Alien movie. Since Ian Holm passed away in 2020, Alvarez had already planned to build a synthetic torso for the scene. Instead of having an actor play that role through a hole in the table, after he spoke with Ridley Scott, he contacted Ian Holm's estate. The whole thing started with me calling the estate and talking with his widow. She felt that Ian was given the cold shoulder by Hollywood in the last years of his life, that he would have loved to be part of more projects after The Hobbit, but he wasn't. So she was thrilled about the idea of having him back. He has the likeness, but he has a different demeanor. Rook and Ash have the same knowledge because it's all Mother. It's a different android, but it's the same consciousness of Mother that moved from one android to the other. The creation of Rook was achieved through a combination of animatronics, built to resemble Holm, and actor Daniel Betts performing his lines. As soon as we finished the rough version, the first thing I did was a call with all his family to make sure they were the first ones that saw it. It was a very, very emotional call. They lost him not too long ago, and I lost my dad too, around the same time, so I could relate to their pain and also their excitement to see him back in the movie. I'm super proud of how we did it and how we worked with them. I can't wait for the fans to lose their minds at seeing one of their favorite faces from the original. It was either this or maybe create a new synthetic, which could have had a smaller reaction during that scene. I liked it. It was cool to see Ian back in some way. Now some fans have said that Bishop and Rook are a nod towards chess pieces. There's also a short video with Deadline interviewing Fede Alvarez. Someone asked him, "How long do we have to wait to get your take on Aliens vs. Predator?" He responded with this, "Maybe something that I have to co-direct with my buddy Dan. Maybe we should do like Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez did with Dusk Till Dawn. I'll direct a half, and he'll direct another half." That sounds like a very interesting idea, since both directors did an amazing job with each franchise they worked on. What's up everyone? Welcome back. So today we have some info about Alien Romulus. There's a secret Easter egg that was hidden from everyone, and it was in plain sight the entire time. During an interview with the Real Blend podcast, they asked Fede Alvarez if there was ever a way to add Ripley into the story of Alien Romulus. Fede said it's not impossible, but there's a few things he left hidden in the movie that were not discovered yet. And guess what? Ripley was added into the movie, but in a small way. Near the end of the movie, when the Renaissance space station is smashing into the rings of the nearby planet, if you look very, very closely to the bottom right and in the far distance, you can see a small ship. This looks very much like the shuttle that Ripley used at the end of the first Alien movie, and it's just passing by during the events of Alien Romulus. You can see this during the Alien Romulus official trailer that was released on June 4th. That is pretty cool. It was right there all along, and nobody noticed. I wonder what other Easter eggs are yet to be found. So when Alien Romulus was announced, and also during production, the team focused heavily on using practical effects. with a few scenes requiring CGI or more to make it look better. The facehuggers had some really good animatronics during some scenes. It made them look more natural and real. But the scene with the Offspring hybrid might have been the most shocking. The way it looked and moved was just so creepy. It's the result of a child exposed to compound Z01 that Science Officer Rook was working on. Fede Alvarez posted a video on social media. They are just going over the scene when the Offspring is going to chase after Rain. As I mentioned in the first video about this creature, it's the first of its kind, and it had many features of both human, alien, and what looks like the face of an engineer. So we are going to look at information that will help explain how this creature came to be within Alien Romulus. The Offspring was played by the basketball player Robert Bobrovsky, who stands at around 7 foot 7 inches tall. The way it's described, you're trying to picture it in your head, and you don't know how the director is going to create this character, says visual effects supervisor Daniel McCarran. Is it going to look like a xenomorph? Is it going to be something very unique? Is it going to be something we've never seen before? As it turns out, it's all of the above. Because Alvarez wanted the film to be terrifying and favored practical effects over CGI, McCarran and animation supervisor Ludovic scaled back, helping to emphasize the work on the creature design team, but in a subtle way. Everything about the Offspring needed to be natural, with a less is more approach. The first time saw the plates, and this 7 foot tall actor in there, in his costume. It was terrifying, McCarran says. They did such an amazing job with the look and the feel of that character that we knew that everything that we could bring to it was just going to help. Because Bobrovsky isn't a professional actor, the way he moves is just unique, which informed the way they animated the character, considering his big size and the concept of what the creature is. He's giving a lot of new things to watch visually, so I found that to be outstanding. Once the baby begins growing at a rapid pace and starts crawling towards Kay and Andy, McCarran added in tiny details, such as extra blood dripping out of the holes in his back, adding movement to the back of its head, and pushing the skin around a little bit, just to give it that little extra bit of horror that the audience will cringe and react to. They also enhanced the creature's tail by cycling through numerous iterations of how it would move. Was it moving enough? Was it a part of the body or something with a different brain? They didn't want it to look like a dog's tail or a cat's tail. It couldn't make the Offspring look too happy or excited. The Offspring's mini-mouth also went through several iterations during the design process. The Xenomorph mini-mouth was iconic, hard and straight with hammering teeth, while the Offspring's juvenile version needed to be softer, while edging on dangerous because it's still growing. In the scene, the Offspring moves towards its mother Kay, and the idea was that it was looking to feed, so as it lowers its head, Shallow had to make sure the mouth's movement was connected to the Offspring and that it didn't have a mind of its own. I was making sure that people didn't think that he was trying to attack her, but the mouth is still dangerous, McCarran says. They also had an issue with finding the right facial expression for the Offspring. It couldn't look cute, and it couldn't be too angry. You don't want the audience being that empathetic with the baby. You still want them a bit terrified. Toward the end of the sequence, the action moves out into space as the station begins to collide with the planet's rings, which presented its own set of challenges. In terms of the Offspring, there was only so much that Bobrovsky could perform. When they start saying, "We need him to hang from the ceiling, we need him to drop down," the actor can't possibly do that, not in a safe way anyway, and we can't replace them with a stuntie, because we don't have 7'2" or 7'5" stunties of his proportions that can do these either. So anything out in space, Shiloh had to take over and build a fresh performance, drawing back on everything that the actor had done in earlier shots. Audiences have left the theater wondering about the Offspring's close resemblance to the engineers in Prometheus, and McCarran affirms that referencing the larger alien universe was the filmmaker's grand plan. It's not something that you want to directly connect, McCarran explains, but if you hint that there's a larger story there, there's more mystery, And maybe we're just seeing the beginnings of those ideas. It was definitely something that we wanted to explore. For the creatures, we brought in all the guys from Aliens. They were in their early 20s when they made Aliens, and they were a part of Stan Winston's special effects team. And now we had them at the top of their game. They had their own shops, and so we brought them all together to work on all the creatures, because we went with all animatronics and puppets at every level. I even got the chance to be under the table with them, puppeteering all these animatronics. I have this obsession with no green screens, so we built every creature and set. Everything had to be built, so we were really living and breathing in these spaces. When it comes to face-to-face encounters and moments with creatures, nothing beats the real thing. The Offspring Hybrid was a new alien type that had a mixed reaction from the fans. Some of us would accept it, and others just don't like it. Maybe because it goes in a different direction from the Alien franchise, kind of like the newborn alien in Resurrection. What is up, everyone? So now that Alien Romulus has been out for a while, there's been some artists that worked on the movie to provide concept art for various things, like the exterior of the Renaissance space station, which I gotta say, this design is cool. It looks like a top spinner. There's other art pieces that show different sections of the interior. This one here reminds me of the hallway designs in the video game Alien Isolation, which is later used in the movie, or at least has some features from the art piece. There's another one that shows an early iteration of Science Officer Rook. He appears more damaged. The area where Rain used the pulse rifle against a bunch of aliens in the hallway also has an art piece that would look similar to the scene in the movie. We've also got the Corbelan ship that the crew used to reach the space station, Jackson Star Colony down below where Rain meets her friends. There's quite a few designs for this one, and they all look really nice. Any one of them could have worked out for the film. One art piece also designed the probe in Alien Romulus. A few art pieces have clothing designs for Navarro and Rain. The cocoon scene with the alien also has various art that shows different stages. The image on the top left, which I enlarged, does look like it was inspired by the egg morphing or cocoon scene in the first Alien movie, which was a deleted scene. Another variation of the cocoon scene was inspired by the original Giger sculpture, and here's one that references the original Giger cocoon sculpture and a scale reference for the height, along with the amniotic sac. This one shows crew members finding bodies on the walls. There was also one where they showed the body of the first alien after it was shot down by the security team. And we also have some art pieces about the Offspring hybrid alien. This version has less skin on its body and some long hair on its head. It has very little muscle mass, along with some tubes on its back. The face is more humanoid, whereas the final version was more like an engineer. This version of the Offspring hybrid still has visible features of the Xenomorph, like the shoulders, elongated head, and teeth, but the skin could be more humanoid. Here's the full body with the tail that does not appear to be pointy or bladed. There's some kind of shiny transparent layer on the forehead, but still retains the white skin like a neomorph. And here is the neomorph within Alien Covenant, along with some early art pieces. And you can see some similarities between this body and also the Offspring hybrid. And this last picture is a comparison between the different designs for the Offspring hybrid alien. Which one do you think is the best? What's up, everyone? So we all know Ellen Ripley from the Alien franchise, and Sigourney Weaver has been in 4 films as that character. Recently, she had an interview with Deadline. They cover various topics like the Venice Film Festival, how she just came off Broadway, and went into her first film role, which was Alien. When talking about the first Alien movie, she says that she doesn't see it as an action film, but more about survival. She thought more about the characters rather than a specific genre. Another question they ask her is how she compares Ridley Scott and James Cameron as directors, and how their approach to the Alien franchise was different. She says, Alien is perfect. It's so claustrophobic, frightening, and unsettling. And Aliens is this big kick-ass movie of scale, which actually has a more conventional story. But it's hard to compare them as filmmakers. They are very different. I can say that all 4 of the Alien filmmakers I worked with all made the material their own. When she transitioned from her role in Alien over to Ghostbusters, she was actually relieved. Ripley as a character was rather serious and humorless. She came from comedic theater, and that's where she felt comfortable. So when she read Ghostbusters, it was one of the best scripts she ever read. They also bring up this question: no one ever dies in science fiction. Is there a future for Ellen Ripley on screen? I feel like she's never far away from me. But on the other hand, I have yet to read a script that said, you have got to do this. So for me, she is in this other dimension, safe from the alien for the time being. I don't really think about it, but it's not completely impossible. And certainly, a lot of good filmmakers are inspired by the material. How much does the public really need or want another Ripley movie? I don't really sit around and think about it, but if it came up, I would consider it. It has come up a bunch of times, but I'm also busy doing other things. Ripley has earned her rest. They also ask her if she saw Alien Romulus, what she thinks about it, and if there was discussion to include Ripley in that story. There wasn't a discussion about Ripley being in it. I haven't seen the new film. I might end up seeing it. I wish them all the best for it. Those are the main questions around the Alien franchise in that interview, and there's another article on Vanity Fair. It brings up a very good question. Why did Ridley Scott not direct the Alien sequels? I mean, I should have done the sequels to Alien and to Blade Runner. You change over the years, and at that time, I didn't want to go through it again. So Jim Cameron came in, and then David Fincher on Alien. Decades after its initial release, Scott intended to direct the follow-up to Blade Runner. But then the opportunity to revisit the Alien universe arose with 2012's Prometheus, and he ceded the director's chair to Denis Villeneuve. I was regretful, although he did a great job. Scott was determined to keep the second chapter of Gladiator for himself. That was a power he didn't wield over the producers of his earlier films. I'm the author of 2 franchises. Most directors in Hollywood certainly, let's say at my level, don't let that stuff go. But I did Alien as my second movie, so I didn't have much choice. And Blade Runner was my third movie, so I had no choice because I had very tough partners. It was kind of, welcome to Hollywood. He says the option to make those sequels back in the 80s simply didn't exist. I was never told or asked. You can imagine I wasn't happy. What's up, everyone? So recently, there's been some new art pieces about Alien Romulus that were shared online. The film had a big team working behind the scenes during its production, from creating the sets, art designs for different scenes, early versions of creatures, and other things that we never got to see. Now we've got a few more art pieces to look at. These ones are from Legacy Effects. Here's a close-up of the scorched alien, the one that was attacked by Bjorn, from within its cocoon sac. Then we have a model of the cocoon from that very same scene. There's an open version as the alien emerges from it, and the closed version before that. Next one is the alien suit and the head. You can see there's a lot of detail in every area. It's not just the outside that was worked on. You can see the inside had some extensive pieces with animatronics to make it all come together. It's amazing to see the early design in the shop to the final product they were possibly aiming for. We also have some art designs from Dane Hollett. This one shows the chest burster. One version has a darker forehead, but they both have a transparent layer of skin that shows their tiny limbs underneath. Other versions of the chest burster had different colored bodies, but the one on the left had these spikes coming out of its elbow and back of the foot, and even a few of them on the side of its head. The last set of chest burster art pieces shows a version with a double bump on its forehead, but the other one looks way more dangerous. It's got a smooth forehead, but a massive spike on its chin, which would make its exit from the chest area even more painful. If they were to ever make a chest burster more different, I think any one of these would be cool, or maybe a combination of both. That would be awesome. Dane also has some nice pieces for the face hugger. One had black bones with a transparent skin. The other one had a darker tone, but they added spikes on the limbs, so it pierces the skin when it wraps around the host. Some other versions had color changes to the body or the limbs, and another one that puts more focus on the transparent skin. He's also got another one that focuses on the facehugger's specific appendage, which I could not show because they might be too graphic for YouTube. There's a few pieces of the scorched alien, but different styles of being damaged, which was a result of Bjorn attacking it from within its cocoon. The young version of the Offspring hybrid did not get much screen time since it grew into a larger form very quickly, but here's a few pieces of the juvenile that were not in the film. There's multiple ideas on how the Offspring hybrid was going to look, like having an overlapping layer of skin with thin bones that would cover the top part of the face. The chin to lower lip area would have the skin removed or be transparent. Another variation was to make the head larger with a bulging forehead. A few designs even went back to a more humanoid look, but with slight changes to the forehead and skin, whereas the bottom one was a combination of white flesh, transparent skin, and dark areas. These mutations were the result of it being exposed to compound Z01. There's also been a few more trading cards shared by Fede Alvarez. Here's a few that are new, but there's a lot more, so check them out on social media. After Alien Romulus was released, a lot of artists have shared their art pieces online after working on the film. We've gone through a bunch of them in previous videos, and now we have some more. This one on the left looks close to the final version we saw in the movie. The other one on the right side looks to have a xenomorph-shaped head. But the different thing here is that the Offspring is going through a phase of shedding the skin, which then reveals another body underneath. Some other images show the Offspring's full body and alien-like tail. It still retains the soft skin like a human, like the version in the movie. These pictures show that there was a scene that might have taken place outside of the ship. A few other art pieces are about unused designs for the Xenomorph. This one has what looks like two huge eyes, an exposed portion on the side of the head, different texture on the body, and massive spikes on its back. Small adjustments were made to remove the two eyeballs, but still retaining the same physical features as before. Here's one of the F-44 pulse rifle from the movie. It's got a wire on the right side with red indicators also. I really like this concept art for the Xenomorph. It has some very thin arms with the chest plate having a new design. It has these spiky ridges that stick out from the chest area. The very back of the head is also modified into a pointed edge that aims upward. The forehead has a dented section in the center. The area where eyes would normally be just has a darkened spot. Maybe that's just for design or it has no actual eyes. The back still has those tubes like a normal xenomorph, but the tail appears to be smooth and it's got a huge spiky blade on the end. Let's switch over and check out some other art pieces. Here's a view from space and we see the planet with rings. This one reminds me of Prometheus. The view from the clouds, nothing around you. It just feels so lonely or isolated and not knowing what's in the distance. This one is a non-used echo design. It looks like the scene when they retrieve the body of the alien from space. Here we have one of the Xenomorph. I've always liked that transparent forehead area to where if you look closely, you can see the skull behind it. There's more art for the Offspring hybrid. This one has a thin layer of white skin. You can see the bones underneath. The shoulders and back have tubes like a xenomorph, but it's smaller. The face is humanoid, and it looks like the head is transparent. A different version would change the eyes from being dark to looking more human. They were also looking to change the design of the inner mouth. I think these last two were different design choices for what might be the Renaissance space station. The xenomorph that was recovered at the beginning of Alien Romulus was able to survive in space using its own natural abilities. We have some art pieces from Dane Hallett that further illustrates the process of the cocoon it was found inside. We start off with the original director select piece, along with Fede's outline sketch, followed by the creature's proportions with updated silhouette, which maybe looks to form in the shape of an asteroid. The next one shows the silhouette of the alien inside, along with some camouflaged creature details and the imprint of the alien from inside. After this, the outer layer becomes hardened, and the layers of molted skin is what forms into a cocoon around its body. Then layers of molted skin form the first layers of the cocoon. The outer shape is then formed by the xenomorph features of the body and tail. The last one is the sliced view. Another version shows the cocoon fully covered in the material that's used for the alien hive, or at least the outside layer looks more organic instead of looking like a rock or meteor. So the idea is that the alien itself would secrete this material. This would harden over time, which forms into a hard outer shell, and the xenomorph is preserved inside. But where does this material come from? Well, there's a few sources about this, like some art pieces from Alien Covenant, where the xenomorph is shown to release this substance through various parts of its body. This adds to the theory that this could be how the aliens create the hive. In the comic book story of Aliens Berserker, they have a few frames showing the aliens would spit some liquid around some captured humans. This also hardens to hold them in place for the facehuggers. Another section in the story shows they would also spit acid from the mouth to break apart anything covering the mouth of the host, like armor. This could explain how aliens would create a hive in almost any location. The xenomorph itself would have the ability to do this. There's also been the theory that the dorsal spines or tubes or spikes on its back would also have the ability to secrete this material which covered the xenomorph in a protective cocoon. The original idea for the dorsal tubes or pipes on its back were to make it appear less human, which also served as a method to balance the suit's elongated head. Dan O'Bannon wanted the pipes to grow out of the chest area also, but Ridley Scott made the final decision to keep them on the back only. There's been a theory that the dorsal tubes could have secreted this hive material also, but the alien in the third movie did not have any dorsal tubes on its back. Perhaps the animal DNA it came from caused a change in its biology. So if the dorsal tubes were missing on this alien in the third movie, that conflicts with the theory of the dorsal tubes being used to create the hive. Or maybe it was this version that would not have that role, and only specific alien types would be responsible for creating the hive. Another theory of the dorsal tubes is that it's used as a filter for the atmosphere it's in, like the way a fish would filter oxygen from the water. This could be how the alien is able to adapt in different environments. Another way of creating the hive webbing is by using hive nodes. They are produced by the drone and the alien queen. The hive node is a living creature that slowly grows acid-secreting tendrils into whatever it is attached to. These tendrils leach nutrients from surrounding materials and use them to grow a web of living incrustations around the hive node. It could package nutrients that aliens would absorb. This idea was introduced in the video game AVP Extinction. So going back to the xenomorph that was recovered in Alien Romulus, there is a possibility the material that formed into this hard layer came from the alien in a last effort to preserve itself. This could also mean that the queen alien from the end of the second movie might be able to do the same thing. She could still be out there, floating in space, or maybe she latched onto a passing ship or a space station. What's up everyone? We are back with some more unused art designs for Alien Romulus. The topics for this one are once again the Offspring hybrid and also the chestburster. The art for the Offspring and chestburster are brought to us once again by the talented Dane Hallett, and this time he shows the Offspring transforming into a xenomorph. This is the first frame. The next one is when the Offspring begins to change. It then has some physical attributes of the alien. You can see this on the shoulder, and the back of the head is starting to get longer. The inner jaw then develops, with some clear liquid exiting the mouth. The skin along the upper nose starts to stretch. The skin around the forehead starts to peel away, with a dark section beneath it. The teeth also transform to resemble the Xenomorph version. The final image in this transformation shows the skin peeling away across the face, revealing the dark head and teeth of the Xenomorph. But it also makes me wonder, would this version of the Xenomorph also have other mutations, since it comes from the offspring? Either way, a pretty cool transformation. The art pieces for the chestburster have small changes to the back of the head, like changing how far the heart section would reach and the color of the body. Some other pieces had changes to its color once again, but I think the veins or the inside could be made more visible, maybe because the outer layer was more transparent. One of the chestburster designs would change the material of the teeth. They would be replaced with diamond teeth. Another version would make changes to the body of the chestburster. This could be damaged areas or maybe mutations. What's up everyone? We got some new art pieces about Alien Romulus. These ones are shared by Dane Hallett once again. He's got a lot of cool designs that were not used in the movie, so it's nice to see other designs that were left out. These are two versions of the Xenomorph. They share the semi-transparent head to see the layers underneath, but the one on the right side seems to have a different color, along with a layer of skin that still covers the limbs. They also have a different design of the dorsal tubes on the back. And other ones are about the hybrid offspring. There are many designs that were brought up, and here are more. This one has the teeth design of a xenomorph, transparent skin, and underneath you can see more traits of a xenomorph. This one has a different design. It has a humanoid face with sharp teeth and two eye sockets, but the body is thin with long limbs and appendages sticking out of the elbows. The outer body is covered in a hard layer. This one has the white transparent skin to see the hard bones underneath. The face is more like the juvenile. It's got shiny, pointy teeth with an inner jaw. The fingers are very long, with some areas of its body having a dark color. This one would continue to have white transparent skin to see the visible hard layers underneath. It's got huge spikes on its back instead of dorsal tubes. The teeth are like a xenomorph. The eyes would be red, with a nose and ear like a human. That version would be used in this one, with minor adjustments to the eyes, adding some hair to the head, and the addition of dorsal tubes on its back. This one here would have outer layers with a plated design. The arms and fingers are long and thin. The head would have visible veins because of the clear skin, and shiny, pointed teeth and blue eyes. This variation would have some outer layers like a xenomorph, including the tail, transparent skin, and a face like a human or maybe an engineer. The last one would keep the transparent skin, the long tail and thin body, but the dorsal tubes on its back are now sticking out from a different angle. That thin layer of skin would extend across the face and shoulders. The face also had eye sockets, and on the forehead, there's a bunch of holes. Hey, what's up everyone? We got some updates to Alien Romulus. So we know it's getting a physical release date around December, and a digital version is coming out on October 15th. Now there's going to be a bunch of extra features in this package, along with a few alternate or extended scenes that did not appear in the final version of the movie. But IndieWire just released one clip that shows an alternate way of how Bjorn ended up below the alien cocoon. It starts out the same way, as he uses a device to shock the alien within the cocoon. A bit of acid starts to pour out. As Kay and Bjorn start to walk away, the alien tail begins to poke through the cocoon. We then see Bjorn get impaled in the back as the camera is focused on Kay. She then turns around to see his body lifted up and carried back. He is then placed below the alien cocoon and the acid burns into his body. If you pause at this frame right here during this scene, you can see the alien tail is way too long for this part. The version they used in the film I think was much better. Of course, as you can see, this looks like an incomplete version. That's why it still shows cables or wires holding Bjorn, and the tail is not fully developed. It kind of reminds me of the very long tail from the grid alien from the first AVP movie. I remember watching that scene and I was thinking, yeah, the tail just looks too long. It also seemed pretty strong to hold a heavy predator with just the tail alone. And also considering that this was just an adult alien, I think this scene also was a bit overdone. What happened before Alien Romulus? So we have the first issue of Alien Romulus comic book, which serves as a prequel to the movie. It starts off in the Zeta Reticuli system near the moon LV-426. The body of the alien is recovered and brought on board the ship, then transported to the Renaissance space station. They discover that it was encased in a hard shell, which was made from secreted resin. It contains hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, the 4 basic elements of life. The crew believe there is no risk of cutting it open, and so they begin. That rock oozes rotten energy, and it's coming from whatever's inside. These 2 people are named Hilla and Adrian. As they remove the top layer, the body of the alien is revealed. Hilla starts to get worried and wants to shoot it, but Adrian stops her. This alien took down 6 crew members aboard the Nostromo, but 1 person did escape. One scientist says this could be invaluable to the weapons division, but Rook says that is just a short-sighted human observation. Humans only see this creature as another opportunity to consolidate power through destruction. If you humans really want to exterminate yourselves, give the job to a few of us synths. We'll gladly comply. The organism was found on LV-426. They learn it evolves from infant to adult at inexplicable speed. The alien has the ability to generate new tissue and survive almost any environment. This could hold the key to what Peter Weyland was searching for, eternal life. As Rook drills into the alien body, acid blood pours out. The alien then wakes up. Its arm would swing to the side. The humans start to worry, but Rook tells them to relax. It's just a muscle spasm. Even if we detected life, the control rig holding it keeps the internal temperature sub-zero. Rook reassures them that everything is under control. Hilla says she does not trust that synth. Why have us stand guard if it's really dead? Hilla thinks the alien is just playing dead as a common survival mechanism. She learned this tactic when she was stationed on LV-147, clearing out critters before terraforming began, but she wasn't paying attention and one of them attacked her. After that incident, she lost her career, but the company took care of her, kind of. She was then placed on the space station and is now part of the security team, and she has a feeling that rock with the alien inside is a threat to everyone here. Hilla plans to get rid of the alien, but she has to wait for everyone to leave, including the synth. But when she has the chance, they sneak into the lab and send the rock back into space. Days later, Rook would record an audio log of his research. He successfully harvested the lifeform's DNA. He determined it was a composite of human and endoparasitoid extraterrestrial, a creature known as the XX-121 Xenomorph. With its DNA, he managed to synthesize its most basic ovomorph form and replicate the second parasitoid stage in its life cycle. These reproductive agents orally plant a seed inside a human host. Thus, they contain the accelerant responsible for the creature's incredible growth. He was able to extract small samples to create a compound. Just then, another person calls out for Rook. The parasitoids need to be sent down to the Romulus module, but Rook has not done his research. He's on the verge of discovering immortality, to build better worlds, to build better humans. But this human reminds him that Rook is just a synth working for him. He asks Rook, "How many can you spare?" Rook says no more than 5, but the human takes half of the specimens. Rook is left with a skeleton crew in Remus. Meanwhile, everyone else is reassigned to the Romulus lab. Rook says that his research is important and should not be disrupted any further. The others don't understand. The fluid within XX-121 could be a panacea for humankind, which is a solution or remedy for all kinds of illnesses. Later on, we see Hilla and Adrian inside the Remus lab. They need to de-rig the rock, strap it to one of the defense rockets, and blow it to hell. While Adrian is busy, Hilla takes an axe and breaks open a door. She finds out they're synthesizing alien parasites. She breaks it with the axe, causing liquid to fill the floor in the room. Adrian then gets attacked and screams. When Hilla returns, she finds the body of Adrian. She tries to shoot the alien, but misses and it escapes. Rook would show up to see what happened. The alien only reanimated because the humans removed it from the rig. But Rook is more concerned about his work. Compound Z01 has reached 75% processing, and is ready for Phase 1 trials. They start the process right away. They would take the black liquid from the face hugger and inject it into a mouse or rat, then squish it. Rook says they're so close, but they have to find the alien first. It poses a threat to everyone on the station, and they need to stop it before it interrupts his research. Rook would give Hilla a device to find the alien. She can track the creature's unique body temperature. Rook thinks the alien would head towards the facehuggers to protect the young. Meanwhile, other people are talking about how to use the aliens. One idea is to clean up populations in the failing colonies. They see it as a cheaper alternative, and aliens would be plausible and deniable. The alien then shows up and begins to attack everyone here. Some of them would run for the door, only for Matos to close it on them, leaving them inside with the alien. The alien would use its tail to break the containers holding the facehuggers, and the humans inside would get overwhelmed by many facehuggers. Hilla would show up, and Matos tries to warn her they need to run, but Hilla just wants to shoot it down. Matos then gets grabbed by the alien and pulled up. He is eliminated right away by the alien's inner jaw. Hilla tries to shoot the alien, but it escapes again. Rook warns her about the alien's acid blood. It might create a massive decompression event, but Rook thinks a few seconds of decompression might be okay. Rook has an idea. They need to kill the alien where he has access to seal the station with the emergency systems. Otherwise, all would be lost. They use the tracking device to locate the alien. It's inside somewhere. It then jumps out and cuts Rook's body in half using its tail. The alien reaches out to grab Hilla by the throat, but she breaks free by using a rod to attack the alien. She reaches over, trying to get her weapon. She opens fire on the alien, blasting it many times. Hilla knows what's going to happen, so she calls out to Rook to seal the station. As Rook crawls to the computer terminal, Hilla can be seen holding on. Rook would ask Mother the status of Compound Z01. It reached 100%. He says, "It's beautiful. It's perfect." He looks back at the rat from earlier, and it's been brought back to life, fully reanimated. He says this, "Prometheus fire." He pushes the button to seal the station, but decompression starts to pull him away. Rook would hold on, trying to pull himself up. His main concern is to save the compound. All the humans would get thrown into space. Then the safety systems would seal the hole. The last scene is Rook inside the lab before the hole was sealed, and the rat that was injected with Compound Z01 is seen again. Its body is fully restored, and vials of Compound Z01 are seen on the right. And that's the end of the comic book story. And that's how the alien escaped. It also explains what happened to the crew and why Rook was the only one left. During one of the trailers for Alien Romulus, we have a close-up of one alien that had a damaged area on its head, and this also shows some type of energy surge within that open wound. So, what is this? Well, I could have a possible answer. It's been noted that in the comic book story, Alien's Labyrinth, Dr. Church ran multiple tests on the Xenomorph. Aliens don't have eyes like humans, so his theory is that they can communicate with each other telepathically. Dr. Church believes that aliens can psychically see the minds of men, but cannot understand them. He also ran some tests which led him to believe they can sense fear in other animals. There's also been speculation that they track their prey, either by pheromones, which has been explored in the video games and mentioned in the comic books, or by echolocation to see the environment like bats, which could explain how they can track humans almost anywhere within a facility. Dr. Church also discovered that aliens become weaker the more time they are disconnected from the hive and the queen, and eventually they expire. When he examines the body, he makes a remarkable discovery. One specific organ's surface is lined with compound cells of fullerite encased herlantium. The internal structure is solid neurons in two binary fans, very, very dense. This could be the alien psychic receiver. The fullerite and herlantium pick up E-waves, and the binary fans create interference patterns from electromagnetic fields, which is why strong electromagnetic fields really affect aliens. He assumes that these patterns would enable the alien to assess another animal's physical characteristics by seeing its subtle body. Now, in the video games, you can also see that when using alien vision as a predator, aliens would have this electrical effect on the body. You can see it right there. So according to the information from the comic books and video games, what we see in the trailer could be electromagnetic pulses that occur within the head. We only see it now because part of the head was damaged, and those pulses could be what helps the alien see certain bodies or things in the environment. Also, aliens seem to be affected by high-frequency sound waves, which was shown in the comic book Aliens Rogue. It's meant to completely immobilize aliens without damaging their body.